welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection Game Day. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me, as always, my co-host, Tate Mathews. Welcome to this week's edition as we continue our Athletic Director series with Franklin Athletic Director Toby Ruth. Toby, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Franklin Athletics, where we've come from during the fall, through the winter, and now in the spring. I know that Franklin High School had a great year in football and athletically as well. Let's talk a little bit about the Rebellion, what they bring to the table and the culture in the school. Let's start off with the Rebellion, and what does that group, that student body bring to the table?
Well, our student body, they're really, I guess, overly zealous at times, especially during football season. They really love to bring the energy, and right now, they're already planning for next fall. I'm not sure if they're going to keep the name the Rebellion. They like to mix it up every year. Some people want to keep it, and some people don't. I've had, several students in my office already, but with plans for the first football game for next fall. I mean, they're ready to go. They're really excited about what's going on at Franklin High School.
So what's some of the names right now up in the air?
They haven't released those yet. They like to keep things under wrap. They're real secretive until that time.
I like it. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're in and out of the buildings, all 8 buildings all year long. And the first Franklin High pep rally I went to was the glow stick one, and it was by far the best pep rally that I've seen all year long. We have some great cultures across the building, regardless of what happened. But as far as pep rally goes, that was probably the standout pep rally to me all year long. What an unbelievable job they brought, the energy they brought. I can't imagine being in there as a player and getting ready to go out for that night.
And I think a lot of that had to do with the surprise factor that we brought to it. We had put in the works last spring to bring some changes to our pep rallies. They'd gotten kind of stagnant, I guess is a good word for that. And there was a lot of planning that went into that very first one, and they kept it very inner circle until the day of, until that moment. In fact, I think one of their goals was to try to make it seem like it was a normal year in, year out pep rally, and then right in the middle of it, we just changed everything up, and it was just, kids just went bananas. It was really exciting. I think we set the bar super high, and then outside of our version of the game day that we did for the Independence game, we struggled to kind of keep up that high level of hype, throughout the year, but we still had some great pep rallies and some great energy throughout the school year.
Yeah, you did. It was the most impressive one I saw, and you were talking about getting ready for next year for the first football game. It's a pretty big one. Centennial, I guess the third time in a row you're going to see them. So I bet it's a little extra special this year.
I'm not sure if that's ever been done in Williamson County. You play the same team, crosstown rival, 3 games in a row. We played them last game of regular season, first game of the playoffs, and now they're out of our district, but we play them first game just to kind of keep up that rivalry. And it's kind of odd because that's our Battle of Franklin game, where we have the Centennial Franklin helmet that we pass back and forth to the winner of the game. And kind of throw a little controversy right now. Y'all need to decide. We're trying to decide if we're going to keep it because it's the first game of the year. It's the last game of the year, so I'm all for keeping it. I think the kids like it. There's been some talk about not doing it, but I don't know how we can not. It's too big of a game for us. It'll be probably, outside of Ravenwood district game, it'll probably be our biggest game of the year.
Well, I can see just marketing money going out. I mean, just dollar signs going everywhere. The Battle of Franklin, T-shirts, the whole 9 yards. I think you need to keep that going. I think it's fantastic rivalry. Hopefully, Game Day will be there next year at the Battle of Franklin to see what happens there right off the bat. So you better have, of course, as we've seen going into football, that our region was like running the gauntlet. We had such good teams. We didn't realize. We talked about them every week. We've talked about it in the Athletic Director Series as well, how good we really were until we got out into the region play. Franklin being that 8-3, unfortunately lost to Centennial in that opening round. I know that's not going to sit well with the Doctor defense, Donnie Webb, and the crew there, the Rebellion, but I think that will be something that you can motivation going into that first game this year.
It will be, and that loss, you talk about the bigger picture of it. I mean, Donnie's wife is obviously the principal at Centennial. It's a huge rivalry amongst our student bodies. There's a lot of hype built up on social media between the two different student sections leading up to those games. And Centennial, over the years since they've been in school, and since I think 1997, they only beaten Franklin once prior to that, and that was in 2012. And so when you look at the helmet, they've only got a sticker on one side, which we kind of like to take pride in, So losing that game was really, really hard on us. I mean, like you said, this year, the district race it was unbelievable. I mean, outside of probably SEC West football, I don't know if anything was more competitive throughout this past fall. I mean, it was a dogfight every game. between every team, and you just didn't know who was going to come out on top. So.
Well, when we put 85,000 people through our stands throughout the year, and that's not including season passes and postseason play, I mean, that's pretty impressive on behalf of the Big Six and closing in on $500,000 in ticket revenue. So, I mean, that's big for our programs. It's big for, as you know, as an athletic director standpoint of self-sustaining the programs there, and that football has to foot a lot of the bills just because of the max amount of money coming in. But you had a successful year. Joe Critchlow, as we dubbed him on here, the Peyton Manning of WCS, man, his quarterback efficiency was extremely high. Look forward to seeing him play. Tell us a little bit about Joe, where he's going to go, who he signed with, and what his future holds.
Yeah, Joe's going to start out right out of high school. He's going to go on to his Mormon mission. He's a Mormon. It's part of his religion, and so he's got 2-year service he has to do right out of high school. He's going to be doing that in Canada. And upon completion, he's going to go to Southern Utah University and play 4 years of football there. And we're looking for some great things out of him. We're really going to miss him. It's going to be, obviously a huge hole to fill in our offense. I mean, it's hard to, put those numbers back up immediately. The things that Joe brought to the table, not just on the stats-wise, but just the non-stat factor that he brings to the game as well. His leadership, his charisma, his personality, those things are hard to replace, and we're really going to miss that next fall.
Yeah, he really could. He could do a lot of things, and I think people were short-sighted on him. He's going to be, with his frame, as big as he is, he's going to be a 20-year-old freshman. And like
right.
Coach Ruth mentioned, he's still going to have 4 years. I think he's going to be an outstanding college player. I'll tell you another guy that I really liked, and you were talking about it earlier. I know you like multi-sport guys too. Garrison Mathews wasn't going to play football. I don't even think he decided he was going to come out again until a couple weeks before August. What a great year he had, too. He was a big part of your success.
And Garrison was huge. I mean, there were some plays. I remember there was a play, I think it was at Centennial, just when we beat them in a regular season game. It was just an unbelievable catch. And Garrison, he's one of those kind of kids. You think about him on the basketball court, but on the football field, he's got the best hands, I think, outside maybe Van Jefferson. He's got the best hands in Williamson County. He's just a phenomenal player. He was one of those kids you could just go to at any time. We're going to miss that Critchlow to Mathews hookup that we've had for the last 3 years, and they just kind of dominated our offense and our offensive schemes, in that capacity. So, but Garrison going on to Lipscomb University to play basketball this fall. It was a tough decision for him back in the summer. Should I concentrate solely on basketball, not do football? And I think in the end, his heart was, he wanted to be with his teammates and his friends, and that's what he chose to do. So,
and he ended up having a good basketball season, and it all worked out. I love seeing it when it works out like that.
It did. It worked out for him.
Well, let's talk a little bit about other fall sports. Golf. How did we finish up in golf at Franklin?
We had a few players make it to the state in the golf. We did not make it as a team. Mason Felkins made it, I think most specifically. I think he did pretty well up there. I can't remember his actual finish on the golf, but he was one of our players that made it through there. On the girls' side, I don't think we had anyone that made it to the state tournament. We had a few make it to the region, and I think it's about as far as we went on that one.
Well, moving on into the fall sports, volleyball may not have been the year that you probably wanted, but give us a little outlook on where that program's going.
It's difficult in volleyball. And if you talk about sports in Williamson County, I mean, the winner of the Williamson County district is looking to win the state usually.
Yeah,
so a lot of times teams in our district are playing for third place, and it seems like, not a great place to be, but it is growth for us from where we were the past couple of years. I do think we finished third in the district or fourth in the district this year, which was much improved upon last year. We have one player, Mia Farragalli, who's going to play at Trevecca Nazarene next year. She's doing, we're really excited about what she's going to do up there for that. I know she's been training hard here in this offseason, getting in preparation for that. Volleyball team is actually doing their off-season work. Seen them in the gym a few times, getting ready. We've got, again, we got some holes to fill with, some of our seniors graduating. But we're really excited about the future of volleyball at Franklin. They're doing some great things. Coach Holzer is really a good hire for us this past year. She's brought a lot of different teaching things to the table, a lot of different motivational things, and the girls really seem to respond to her. So we're looking forward to some good stuff next fall.
I equate volleyball and WCS about like basketball in Memphis. There's a lot of teams that get eliminated prior to the state championship level that could probably win it. You know what? We could almost put our football this past year on that same level. Okay. And, and don't sell our basketball program short either. I mean, my goodness, we had an opportunity of 3 top teams that could have gone deep into the state championship. And so it's looking good for the WCS all the way around. It's like you said, unfortunately, when you've got Brentwood sitting at 4th in the country and won their 10th state championship, it's kind of hard to overshadow that with an up-and-coming program. But let's move over into the fall sports of cross-country. How did our cross-country team do at Franklin?
Cross-country team is really building around a couple of young players, runners. We got Davis Holiday's a freshman. We got Michaela Prince, she's a freshman. We got several young, and they're doing some really good things. Davis broke the school record 3 times in cross-country. I can't remember the exact times, but I know he broke it. I got tired of kind of keeping up with how many. I'm just going to wait and see how many times he breaks between now and his senior year. But he's doing really, really well for us. We're going to do. I think we're going to do. We've got some other kids coming in from 8th grade. They're going to do really well for us. Cross country, we want that to keep going and build on our success from this past year. I think the next fall sport is girls soccer.
It is.
And our girls soccer team didn't go quite as far as we wanted to this year. We did, for the second year in a row, we ended up losing to the eventual state champion. We lost in the sectionals this year to Clarksville. Very tough game. We lost a hugely tough game to Ravenwood in the regional finals. When it came down to to PKs, we lost by 1, and it was just really tough on our girls. Our program has been so successful over the years, and we just expect to win all the time. And so it's tough when we don't, So, but we're building on that. We got Coach Burgoyne coming in next fall to replace legendary Coach Jimmy Burchett. We're looking for some good things out of Coach Burgoyne with the girls next fall.
Well, and you already know he was obviously your boys' coach, state champion, nationally ranked. Well, I think they ended up number 2 or 3.
Number 2 in the country.
A couple years ago. So he knows what he's doing. He's great. And I think important, Coach Burchett, I didn't really realize this until I started looking at 300 wins. Well, about the most you can play in a season is 20. That's a pretty good career. So you're right. He is a legend, and you're replacing him with a great coach. So, and I tell you, there was pretty neat. There was a Franklin tie in that Clarksville game. Y'all might not know. They were coached by Jeff Jordan, who was the wrestling coach at Franklin High School back in the late '80s when they won the state championship. '89. Taiwan Armstrong.
Right.
I would love to see a study. Has there ever been a coach win a state championship in wrestling and girls soccer?
I'm not sure about that.
Interesting. Well, as we start talking about here, late we're talking about the Wilcos. It's coming up May 21st at the Franklin Theater. You have a couple of your fall guys and girls that have been nominated for the Wilcos, and one being Joe Critchlow in football, and I'm sure that's going to mean a whole lot to him. Not only is he up for football, he's also up for Male Athlete of the Year, multi-sport. When we come back from break, we'll talk more about the basketball side of Joe, but I think that's a high quality of only having 4 top guys in the Male Athlete of the Year side of things out of all the athletes that we have, over 4,200, that Joe Critchlow is the representative from Franklin High.
Yeah, Joe's a special kid, and having up this award is going to be something very special for us. Win or not win, it doesn't matter. We all know what kind of person and athlete Joe Critchlow is and what he brings to the table. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, the kids that were finalists for this were nominated by the coaches and athletic directors from each school, and then they were compiled into a list. And then once again, another round of voting by you guys. Each school gets a vote, and you have. We compiled it to the finalists, the 3 finalists. That's who gets to actually go to the event, attend the event, and then we're going to have one more round of voting to see who the winners are. But with that being said, you span 7 sports and 8 athletes from Franklin High, and that's a good showing from Franklin High School. Yeah, obviously we'd like to have a few more here and there, and we thought we had a couple of players that ought to be up in there that weren't in there.
Right.
Garrison Mathews more specifically.
I don't know why you're looking at me.
I'm not looking at you. I just personally, I thought Garrison, he had a great season. Battled a lot of injuries. That's some statistics you don't get to really look at.
Right.
And despite that, he had a really great season. Of course, I'm a little biased. Can't help that. Coaching Garrison the last few
But he
years.
is a great player. He is, and it comes down to 3 finalists, and and I understand that too, and I agree with you. But it's one of those things where you run up another, the bad timing, because you ran up against the run of Brentwood had. You have 2 All-State players in there in that group, and with Grant Teichman and Jalen Lawson, but it could have been anybody from Garrison to one of those 3 guys that could have been selected. But when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about Franklin Athletics with the athletic director, Toby Ruth. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello folks, I'm Bill Fitzgerald with the Franklin Rodeo. The Franklin Noon Rotary Club this year is fighting domestic violence with our Man Up Crusade on May 15th. So wear your purple on Friday night and help us fight domestic violence and support Bridges of Williamson County. Get your tickets at franklinrodeo.com.
Hello and welcome back to WCS Sports Connection Game Day. We're with Franklin Athletic Director Toby Ruth, and we're continue talking about Franklin Athletics. Let's go into the fall side of things. We got wrestling and basketball. Josh Philby goes in, wins the 220-pound class of wrestling state championship on the AAA level. That has to be very uplifting for the Franklin Athletic program.
It was very uplifting, and it was kind of quiet throughout the year. We didn't, you didn't hear a lot about it coming through. But I kept my eye on Josh all year. He just kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. I think he lost one match all season. If I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, but I think it was to the kid that he beat in the state finals, the Kramer kid from Wilson Central. I could be wrong. I know he ended up beating whoever he lost to. He ended up beating him again later in the year. So, but I know that the win in the state finals was not supposed to happen, but he came through in dominating fashion, and we were super proud of him. He put in a lot of work. Been wrestling since sixth grade or maybe before at Grassland, and he's just a strong kid, and he really put in a lot of time and effort for that, and we're super proud of him.
Yeah, he did. And it was the Kramer. I think his name's John, but it's the wrestling coach of Wilson Central son. He was the defending state champion in the 220-pound class. Beat the shot youngster from Ravenwood who beat Josh last year. I thought it was the match of the state tournament. I thought it was the biggest win of the state tournament. It was, and that 220-pound class, you're not quite a heavyweight, and so they're athletic. I think the 220-pound class is the most impressive class in all of wrestling. You're right. Unbelievable year. It's kind of hard to say that a young man with only one loss in the entire year is an underdog, but he was, and he was sick, and it just was. It was an unbelievable performance, and very happy for him because you're right, he did put in a lot of work.
Has to be the hardest weight division just because of the fact that you're over the 200-pound weight class. You have to be heavy, you have to be agile, and you have to be in unbelievable shape and strong, just like you said that Josh was. So right now brought home the lone state championship for the year. As of right now, still have plenty of sports to go, but congratulations to Josh Philby, who is also a Wilco finalist as well in wrestling. He's one of the top 3 finalists and looked to be probably the favorite going into the ceremony that night.
And we hope so. Josh has got all the qualifications, to be, Wilco Athlete of the Year in wrestling, male Athlete of the Year in that division. Josh, coming into that state, he was so confident. Like, people say you say underdog. But knowing Josh the way I do, I've had him in class, 2 out of his 4 years, and he was ready, and you could just see it in his eyes before that weekend that he was not going to come out of there with anything less than a state champion, and that's what you got to have. You got to have that mentality to push through, maybe being the underdog, or when you're facing someone who's supposed to be better than you, and he brought that.
Well, that gives us a good segue into basketball. What a year you had. Franklin had. It was kind of a Jekyll and Hyde story early. When you got your football guys back, arguably the largest team in the district, hands down, with height that you had, Joe Critchlow, Garrison Mathews, Hargraves, Tanner, Spalding, all those guys that you had a great nucleus of a team there. Throw in Paul that shot the ball well towards the end of the year. Great season. Like I said, it was up and down early, but come tournament time, you guys were right there.
Yeah, it was a close loss there that in the regional semifinals to Hillsboro, and we just felt like if we'd won that game, that we would have been up there with Brentwood in the state tournament for the first time since 1989.
Well, the only gold ball in Wilco presides at Franklin High School.
It does, and we take pride in that. We're super proud of what Brentwood did for the county, but couldn't say we were we're not still proud to have the only gold ball
in
Williamson County. But the season was up and down, like you said. We really struggled at our guard position. Being so big, we didn't really have a true point guard, so we worked on trying to find the right fit for that position all season long. And with Garrison Mathews being kind of our marquee scorer all year, we had to try to find some way to alleviate that when teams would throw junk defenses at us, boxing ones most of the time, or we saw a lot of zone. By the end of the year, we were kind of like I feel like sometimes felt like Kentucky. They saw a lot of junk defenses against them early throughout the season. So coming into the district and regional tournament, we were ready to see about anything.
And you were talking about volleyball. This district conference, whatever you want to call it, has gotten so tough in basketball, and you all have gotten to know each other so well now. And it's just like in football. You all know now. Nobody's going to outcoach anybody. You all know each other very well. You all have good players. So it really is. There are no nights off at all. I mean, look at what Summit's doing now. Summit could beat any of y'all on any given night. You all could. Andy, it was I know it wasn't as fun for you all because you had to be on every night, but it was a fun basketball season all around.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you look at all the teams that we played against this year, especially in Williamson County. You know, Independence. Greg Glass did a phenomenal job this year. You know, still somewhat of a young team, but he's got just, some great players down there in the Murphy brothers. Summit, they had a great season as well. Again, a young team. That's where the future of Williamson County is probably going to be going. It's south instead of north. With Brentwood losing a lot of seniors, we're losing 9 seniors. Ravenwood's still rebuilding, after losing. They lost 8 seniors last year. It's just going to be tough, and you never know which time or which team at any point in the year is going to win. It does come down to a lot of heart, a lot of effort, and just the will to win.
Well, I made the same mistake during football of watching our teams and getting a little bit, taking it for granted, I guess you can say, about how, I guess how good, it's not the proper word, but I go watch us play and I'm like, we're not bad. And I'm still using my West Tennessee mentality of thinking what you see over there. But then as the year went on, we're beating up on each other and you're thinking, we've got a chance. We're pretty good, And then you get out and you get into the district or the region rather, and it's 3 of our guys versus 1 on the other side. So we almost swept the region tournament. Then you have an opportunity against a very good Hillsboro team. Maybe a botch call there at the end to give you a chance to get the ball on the basket with 2 seconds to go. But very interesting year. I think from my standpoint, I couldn't have been happier with the top 4 teams, 5 teams. I agree with you. I think that the power will shift south next year. I think those 2 will be the teams to beat once they continue their confidence growing. They're going to be hard to handle with Indy down there, like you said, with the Murphy brothers and Summit. But I look very interested to see that your JV freshman group at Franklin High School on the boys' side completely just mopped the floor with everybody all year long.
Yeah, we thought last year when we were coming into this, we thought we'd got 9 seniors this year. All the next year is going to be just, a hard year with rebuilding, coming back. But then our JV team, they ended up going 14-1 with the only loss coming to Brentwood. And then, they did beat Brentwood at Brentwood later in the year. And there were some games that we came in and just, hammered people to the point, and it almost got to the point where people were thinking we're just trying to run up a score on people. But you look at the details and the stats, and it really wasn't. There were 2 games this year we shot over 70% from the field. And when you're scoring that well, you're going to beat people pretty badly.
Absolutely.
And that says a lot about, our JV coach, Coach Moore, who's put a lot of time into those guys and getting them ready for next year. And the fact these kids really, at the end of the season, were playing great team basketball, and it was super fun to watch. And if you didn't, you don't get JV kids don't get a lot of props. Right. They don't get stories written about them in the newspaper. But these guys really put together a great run this year, and we were super proud of them.
Well, real quick, let's switch gears and go over to the girls' side. The job that Carrie Bishop did this year, Carrie Goodwin, I call her Bishop every time.
I do too.
Was phenomenal. She's doing a great job right now. Look to be continue building that program to where it needs to be behind freshman guard Holly Harris, who also is a Wilco finalist. Congratulations to Holly of making the girls finalists there. Look to see some really good things coming up with the Lady Rebels.
We do, and again, we're going to be a young team again next year. We got really Jody Hill will be like the only senior I think coming back next year. We've got Holly coming back. Abby Unger will be a sophomore. She saw a lot of varsity time this year. The girls team, that we had a great season. We didn't finish the way we wanted to. Obviously, the other coach Goodwin got the win over Carrie and for the first time in the district tournament, and that was a super exciting game. I guess that's the best way I'll describe that. But it was disappointing in that sense because our girls overcame a lot, losing those 5 seniors the year before. And 3 of them went on to play college basketball. So we had a lot of holes to fill this year, and we did really, really well. Coach Goodwin did a great job with them, and they made a lot of strides. And I'm looking forward to next season.
I think one of the things I would be most excited about, and I know it's what you all had in mind when you hired her, but there's been a lot of turnover on the girls' basketball side in the past decade or so at Franklin. A lot of things went into it, but I think she's great. She's been in some really good places. She was a great player. She knows how to win, and it just seems like she's building a program type feel there. Brentwood, Sig's been there over 20-something years, you know, and it just feels like she's really got things on a good foundation and going in the right direction.
And that's what it takes. It takes changing the culture. You know, sometimes when you got this idea of this is the way things have been, and it has been, I'm not, you know, and whose fault that is, we can't say. You know, it's been so long now. But Carrie's come in these last 3 years and really established a program. She's established expectations. She's established the idea that winning is to be expected and not something that we hope to achieve. And that's what it takes. And the mentality of these girls, they come in, and right now we're in the off season, and we, to be honest, we're struggling to find off season gym time with all the rain. Spring sports are kind of always in the gyms. So there's really been a fight, you know, amongst our boys and girls basketball teams, and even the volleyball team, to get some off season work in. And they're hungry. They're hungry for that work. They're hungry for those days to get better, so that next year, they can be competitive.
Well, let's move on over into the spring sports. I know that we have, like you said, we are in full swing. Weather has not exactly cooperated for all of our teams, but where do we stand right now? Let's start on the boys' soccer side of things. I know that Franklin High is always a powerhouse in soccer, so where are we right now in soccer?
Well, right now we're sitting third or fourth in the district. We've lost both to Ravenwood and Brentwood in the district. I think those were the only two district games we've lost. I think we lost to NBA, then two teams out of Oklahoma. So right now we're 3-5. I know we were kind of joking a little bit earlier that we might be the best 3-5 team in the state of Tennessee,
Absolutely.
Which is probably true. We obviously lost a ton of seniors last year. Coming off, we were a second-ranked team in the country, went undefeated, won the state championship for the second year in a row, including the Tennessee player, Gatorade player of the year,
yep.
Brad Ross. So we've had a lot of holes to fill, and we're still playing very good soccer. The guys are competitive. We had a few injuries to some key players. We had a concussion, dislocated shoulder, a couple of illnesses go around there for the last couple of weeks. And plus our guys have really been, I think every spring sport team has really been struggling to find a rhythm with all this weather and cancellations. It's been really tough. But the soccer team is, they're looking to be there at the end of the year. They don't expect not to be in the district championship or the region championship and be continuing to try to get back to the state tournament.
Real quick, let's talk about softball. Libby Sugg signs with BYU. They're probably pitching around her. She's going to lead the league in walks. But softball?
Softball are doing pretty good. Like I said, we're 6-9 right now. Through 15 games and 35 at bats, Libby Suggs, she's batting .514. I mean, and that's with 18 hits. I mean, I don't know. She's got 2 homers. Her first one coming in, the very first pitch of the game this year, of the season, and she hit a home run. And I don't know how many intentional walks she's got right now. I know last year she set a school record for intentional walks.
They've been pitching around her for 3 years now, and I understand it. But I hate that because if they were pitching to her, there's no telling how many home runs she would have hit in her high school
one
career.
Of those home run rules, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
like do in rec softball.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, she hit double figures her freshman year. I mean, there's no telling. It could have been unbelievable.
Well, real quick, let's finish up with baseball. I have about a minute left. Let's talk about baseball and the outlook for them.
I think the baseball team has lost a ton of one-run losses they had this year. But right now, I think we're struggling with some injuries. We lost Kyle Evans and Hargrave just recently for the year. So this spring might be a little bit of a challenge in the postseason. We're looking, maybe come down at the end and surprise some people.
Logan Jarvis playing very well, about .494 on-base percentage. Not a baseball guy, but I'm guessing that's pretty good.
Yes, it is, and we look forward to some big things out of Logan this year and next year.
Well, that concludes our Athletic Director Series here with Toby Ruth from Franklin High School. I'm Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always is Tate Mathews. This has been WCS Game Day. We'll see you next time.
Too many of Tennessee's students drop out of high school. If you ask them why, you'll probably hear they just can't keep up because they don't have the reading skills. Success in school is based on success in reading, and learning to read starts with hearing words. With young children, storybook reading plays a special and important role.
Great. What's the last word? Good.
Have fun with reading. Read the directions on the box and bake a cake together. Work with your child to cut coupons and make a grocery list. Read a book about different occupations. Then ask your child what they would like to be when they grow up.
What about an eye doctor, just like your granddaddy?
My eye doctor is much more. He works with some glasses.
He does.
Don't underestimate the impact that reading can have on your child's future. Choose success. Choose reading. This Choose Success moment has been brought to you by the Middle Tennessee P16 Council.